Okay, today we're talking to Jesse Brown, and we're going to talk about the new Iron Man movie, Iron Man 2, with Robert Downey Jr. And we're talking to Jess, and the first question I want to ask you, Jess, is how would you compare this movie to the original movie, Iron Man 2
Well, compared to the original, I really like this one a little bit better. I think a lot of people say that it wasn't as good, but I kind of disagree. I think it was at least equal, but there were parts that I enjoyed more in this one. And overall, I think this was a little better, just because it had a few more characters, a better villain, and it was just more interesting this time.
How would you, what did you think of Robert Downey Jr.'s performance? How would you say he did a good job or what?
Yeah, he did a great job. I like him as Tony Stark. I think he's excellent at that role. He adds a lot to the character, his own personality, really livens it up. And he's very improvisational. He'll add a lot of dialogue and just funny little bits that he does really well. I mean, his personality comes off 100%, and I think that saves the movie in a lot of scenes that could have been dull or just lacking in character. He really defines that character very well. He's got Tony Stark down. Tony Stark is the genius, billionaire, playboy sort of, and he does that perfectly. So I like him in that role. I hope he stays there, and I don't see why not.
Would you say, or are you inferring that it's Robert Downey Jr.'s cleverness that comes up with these little extra sayings, or?
Yeah, I think just the little extras that he adds on make a big difference.
But how do you know that he added, or the producers didn't have that in the script for him?
Well, you never really know for sure, but it seems like, I mean, you can usually tell when a talented actor like that is able to improvise. It's just something that the scriptwriters don't really put into the script, either because they're pressed for time or they're thinking too much about the plot, but it just comes off naturally, and that's what actors do, really talented ones.
It's kind of like we have in mind when Sean Connery played James Bond, and I think James Bond, portrayed by Sean Connery, was probably the better caricatures, I would say.
Okay, yeah, I think that's fairly accurate to say that.
So what other actor stood out in this? Was there anybody else that you say did a noble job, or you would compliment them in adding to the movie, or?
Not necessarily. There were other actors that did well, and there was a very talented cast, some real star power. We had Gwyneth Paltrow returning. She did great in her role. Like she did just as good as she did the first time. Maybe even her role was stepped up a little bit more.
Was she in that first movie?
Oh yeah, she was. And then we had also Samuel Jackson in there. He did his usual thing, nothing spectacular. Scarlett Johansson, she was good. Can't say too much about her. And the rest of the cast, well, Mickey Rourke, he did well, but it wasn't profound.
Just the kind of part scene that he handled there, right?
Yeah.
It was
mostly just Robert Downey Jr. in the spotlight. It was his show.
Mm-hmm. Well, did he have any part in producing the movie himself?
I don't think so.
Okay. Who is the producer of this movie, by the way? Do you recall?
No clue.
Okay. Do you think that there's a balance between the story and the action that went on?
Oh yeah, I think they balanced it pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, you get some action. It's not a whole lot, but you get some action, and the story starts rolling along pretty quickly, and you get intertwined in it. I like the story this time, probably more than I did last time. You kind of have this emotional attachment and concern, and then the action starts picking up, and kind of the action sort of supports the drama, because there's a lot of drama going on. And then towards the end of the movie, the action gets intense, and there's a lot of it, which is good. That's the way the film should go. Were
there any parts in it that kind of dragged, or did it pretty much kind of flow together without any boring moments, you'd say?
Yeah, because Robert Downey Jr.'s acting is so good. The dialogue scenes flow, and it doesn't drag. There's no really boring parts, I have to say. The movie's pretty cool.
And I'm going to ask you, Jesse, what was your favorite part of the film?
My favorite part was definitely the domestic brawl fight between Tony Stark as Iron Man and his new sort of guidance partner. This guy that is, his role is to keep Tony in line. And they have a conflict there in Tony's mansion, and it explodes and escalates, and it's just a great scene. I enjoyed that a lot.
And so, yeah, okay. Was this character in the first movie?
No, this is a new character for this film, and I think it adds a lot to the franchise.
So there was another major character that was put in that kind of stood out there.
Yeah, well, yes. His acting wasn't...
And who was this character? Do you remember his name?
Well, this is War Machine. Also, in the comic books, War Machine is very popular, and he fights alongside Iron Man.
I see. So that was the character that... Well, was he the one that was keeping Tony in line, you know, to do his job?
He sort of represents the United States government and their concerns about Iron Man and Iron Man's power.
But he played as a machine, not a...
Well, he's a guy in the suit. So.
Right, okay, just like Tony was, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you think the movie was good enough for a third movie?
Oh yeah, I think most major films nowadays are aiming towards 3 films, and I think Iron Man definitely deserves it, especially with all the background and plots of the Iron Man comic books. There's a lot of room there for some good stories.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to the third film.
Well, is there anything about the movie that you'd want to criticize that they could have done away with or made it better? Or?
Yeah, I would have liked to seen more from Mickey Rourke. The villain wasn't all that great. I mean, they could have used Mickey Rourke much better, and that's really all I have to complain about. Other than that, it was a pretty good film. I liked it a lot.
So in other words, I was going to ask you, how would you rate it overall?
Overall, scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to say I'll give it an 8. It was
8?
It was
okay.
good, yeah.
If it had a scale of 8 on it, what would you have given the first movie?
First movie, 7.5.
Okay, so you're saying this movie kind of peaked out the other one just by a little bit,
Just
right?
a little bit, yeah.
And the critics, how did they rate it? I mean, other than you, did they rate it pretty?
I think generally it got a good rating. Overall, I think it was a good impression. But I think people compared it too hard to the first film, saying that the first film was better. But I can't disagree with them too much.
Okay, you definitely go and see it again later on.
Yes.